So, in a sense, what I want to do in my contribution was really to understand why you need a historical perspective to have a proper assessment of the issue of Islamism and Islamist reformist movements and their role and their future and their origins. And the key messages I wanted to give are the following. The first one is that if you take very well accepted definition of what is a fundamentalist or a reformist movement, that is a movement that has a scripturalist approach to the holy text. You cannot be free in interpreting the text. The text has to be taken literally. And the puritanical dimension that starts from the idea that moral decay is the basic source of the problem and the disruption of social order in many societies. And also the millenarian and messianistic aspect that you're going to have a big change that will bring happiness and harmony again, inspired by a pristine state. If you take these three characteristics, then one has to say that it is not specific to Islam. We have observed such millenarian movements in history several times, several places, and produced by several religions. What still is interesting to notice is that in Islam, since there is no ecclesiastical authority and structure, with the exception of Shiaism and Iran, it's very easy to bring contest and diversity in the views about how you implement Islam and how the society should be organized. Everybody can have his fatwa. So that creates a kind of anarchical state that is very typical of Islam, but it is again not completely specific to Islam, because American Protestantism and these evangelical churches have the same characteristic. The second point was to draw attention, why do they come up? Why is it? And then here I made a basic distinction between endogenously created movements that comes from the civil society, if you want, and second, those that have been state engineered. In many examples in Islamic history, puritanical movements have arisen in the wake of attempts to consolidate power, to unify territories, or to build up nations. And of course, the most important modern example is Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia was united by an ideology, which is Wahhabism, which is puritanical, and it was chosen for purely contingent reasons, because it was different from what was there in the other part of the Islamic world, and Saudi Arabia wanted to have a specific identity. A second reason is corruption. The authoritarianism, despotism, oppression of the people, and corruption create revivalist movements that wants to just remove all this political system, these politicians and this elite, and replace it by a dreamed of millenarian, egalitarian society. And the state can sometimes play on these movements to keep in power. And that, I think, is a very important point too, that you have seen in many countries like Egypt, for instance, where Mubarak has crushed the left by using sometimes even more extreme Islamist movement than the neo-Muslim Brethren. And the third reason is external aggression, that many revivalist movements date back to the colonial period. In many countries like the Sudan, like Indonesia, like India, that they were born as resistance movements. In countries where religion was important, they used religion as a way to fight against the invaders. And so when you see it that way, then you understand better why they are there. And so a basic lesson is, if you don't want to have these movements, you have to prevent the cause from which they are there from arising. Otherwise, it's no problem. Once they are there, they are difficult to address, because once they are indulging in violence, then you are bound to repress them, then you make martyrs, and then when you make martyrs, they recruit more, so the struggle intensifies. Then you are in a vicious cycle.